Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next Eberron Explained. This one we're going to talk about Dragonmark lineages, or Dragonmarks in general. This is unique to talking about the houses, or one in particular, Dragonmark, because it's kind of like about the structure of the families that have Dragonmarks. So I actually wasn't familiar with this until Aaron brought it to my attention at one point. So I'm going to allow Aaron to start this one off because I'm such a nice fella.
Great, thanks. I can't remember which book of it's in, whether it's Magic of Eberron or the Dragonmarks book itself, but in one of those 3.5 books they go into the particular lineages within families and how that affects the mark. I think the example they give is actually Sinis, where certain families will develop certain magical powers, like Whispering Wind or something like that, like transporting messages, and other magical or other like families within that same like house and bloodline will develop different messages, like the ability to decipher messages more clearly. So similar themes, but different branching pathways. So
I'll take it back for a second. So if you were looking at the Dragonmark, the Dragonmarked feats from the 3rd edition, as opposed to the ones that came out with the Earth Arcana in 5th edition. In 3rd edition, each Dragonmark at different tiers had multiple options of spells that you can have. And then beyond that, there were other feats that came later on in the book called Dragonmarked that you could take. It would expand what spells you had access to. So you'd have even more options of spells. So House Beneath, instead of just having, it's just, I don't even know what it is in the 5e version, Shield or something like that. Instead of having just that as the first level option, they actually had like 3 options, I think, in the core book, and then like 3 more that came out in the later book. And so the idea is that like not everybody had this one power. There were different powers you can get. And so what Aaron is saying is that my bloodline versus her bloodline was very likely to develop this power versus that power. Continue, I'm sorry.
No, and that was very much taken into consideration when they were arranging marriages within the houses. And just interesting little tidbit.
So if I was a wealthy merchant that had, a few, daughters or whatever, and I wanted to more or less like sell my kid to marriage, like what was done forever in medieval times and so on and so forth. Like, hey, I want my daughter to marry somebody of significance that's going to add to my family and give her good protection and da-da-da-da. Who am I going to send them to? Well, of course, one of the Dragonmark houses is ideal. Okay, you got a kid worth enough to kind of peddle off to a Dragonmark house. Well, if you're, as a merchant, if the goods that you create and sell are like, I don't know, let's say you make food, right? That's what you do. You're a farmer. You're a wealthy mercantile farmer. Yay. You just get food out there. What is Deneath really going to offer your family? Okay, protection. That's useful. All right. But maybe you want to go towards Lyrandar instead. You hear Lyrandar is good with weather and whatnot, and having a kid, like a grandkid that can control weather would really help out the crops, wouldn't it? Well, you're not just going to have your daughter marry into just anybody House Lyrandar. Oh, look at this admiral that controls 16 ships off the Lazar Principalities, or near wars with Lazar.
They can make fog. That doesn't really help you with farming.
No, not at all. So you would specifically choose somebody within a family line that was known to have rain callers. Not just because the family they prefer that guild, but because the actual mark that develops on the children gives them the ability to literally call rain from the sky into water fields, or do plant growth as a spell, or so on and so forth. Or another example, if you're marrying your kid into a family hoping to create a mark, and you're some sort of scribe or a librarian or whatever, you're going to want your kid to marry a gnome. You have to be a gnome yourself. Darn, logic falls off. But you get the point. Is you choose specific families within the houses that have that power. So you had given me some really cool examples before, beyond just like the gnomish one there.
Yeah, we'll look at Lyrandar. I think just like an example right from the book, you can choose Fog Cloud or you can choose Endure Elements.
So the significance between fog, cloud, and endure elements is like so. Going to another example, fog cloud to literally create fog. It's a pretty niche group of people that have use of like. It's awfully moist in here.
You can also destroy fog with that spell.
Awesome.
Pretty sure. Maybe not.
It's a pretty small area that you'd be able to destroy. So cool. But Endure Elements, however, which in the older version of the game, Endure Elements is a 24-hour long spell that required no concentration, material components, or anything like that. It was just like you can now comfortably travel in heavy rains, cold weather, warm weather, and stuff like that. No problems. It didn't bother you. That is extremely important for many different peoples. And so, you know, maybe that family line is getting a little more laid than the other one. Just saying. So the reason why I wanted to do a video specifically on this is because I think it makes for a really cool... Whenever we do Eberron campaigns, you always kind of have to choose what your big plots are and what your intrigues are. It's too much to try to tackle all the intrigues in one game. You want to take like your focused intrigue and then tidbits from the other ones, right? So I think it's cool that within each house, if you want to have like that struggle of bloodline, especially if you're in like a Thorani, Farlane kind of game, or a Cannith game.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, a Cannith game is a good point. When your character decides what spells do I get from my Dragonmark? Well, what family line are they from? Either they can kind of like make up that whole plot themselves as a PC, or maybe the DM has come up with what the different family lines are.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know, you're from House Vitalis. Okay. Well, guess what? There's only 6 bloodlines of Vitalis, which is a relatively new house. There's only 6 bloodlines of them that produce Dragonmarks. This is their original family name. One of them would be Vitalis, because it's always the way it goes. Is like the most influential one at the time is the one that becomes the it's named after, right? So that would be one family, but it could be like the Davis family of, or the Sin family, or the Cox family of Vitalis. Obviously cooler names than that. So it makes for a really cool house fighting, not inter-house, but even within intra-house fighting, which is wicked cool. It's your family fighting.
From a PC perspective, I think it's really cool to have those different options available. You know, if you want to have like a certain bloodline in your house, and you want to talk to your DM about like changing out some of the spells, I think it's great.
I think it's a huge thing right there. We actually discussed this before, I believe with Kieran. Yeah. We discussed like, because the idea that like what the book offers and what later on spells are created in are really good release. So like in 3.5, when that first book came out, the first Eberron book, they had those core options. I mean, there were only a couple of books to get spells from at the time. Now, if you play 3.5, there's 4 books that cover all the spells that exist in basic D&D. If you're not doing like Eberron specific or whatever, or favoring specific spells, but I think even all of those are in those 4 books too. Excuse me. So, what if there's another spell that came out that's super focused on water, or super focused on defense, or super, and you're like, I want this as an option. You can totally, or maybe you develop a spell because it's a new family line that just developed a mark on its own that's not related to the other 6, 8, 12 families that have, just not 13. Just not 13 families. That have a mark. So it'd be wicked cool because now you can actually have your own unique power that's unique to your bloodline. But I think this is also super important too, because out of all of the houses and all of the Dragonmarks and all of the bloodlines, none of them have attack spells. No. Not a single one of them have spells that are designed for offense.
Well, and we're going to be talking about the 3.5 books right now. 5th edition kind of muddled the waters with that.
Oh, they completely broke it, and it actually ruins the entire theme of Dragonmarks. So I actually want to attack that for a second, because we're going to go into the attack spells in a different segment when we talk about House Harkonnen, but and Aberrant Marks. Yeah. But with the okay, I hear my daughter in the background there. Sorry about that. Just a little interruption as my little one came home and she was looking for myself and my dog. So, all right. So we're talking about we're talking about 5e and how they change the spells.
Yeah.
Yeah. So customarily, there are no attack spells whatsoever in any of the true Dragonmarks that exist. True being non-mixed race Dragonmarks that are just like, they're blue and green. It's like the easy way to identify them, right?
Right.
So there are no attack spells that exist amongst them. As a matter of fact, there's no really combat spells that exist amongst them, with the exception of House Neath.
Yeah.
House Neath is the unique one that has protection spells like Globe from Vulnerability, Shields, Mage Armor, stuff like that. Everything else is meant to be like, very miscellaneous.
Yeah, they built a trade empire off of them.
Yeah.
They weren't all combat related.
They certainly were. They weren't powerful in the conventional sense. They were made powerful by the trade or commerce that was put together behind them. That's just like brilliance.
Yeah.
The exception to that being House Harkonnen, which is the Dragonmarks. Dragonmarks have all sorts of spells. Tons of combat spells.
Yeah.
But we kind of want to get into that a bit more when we talk about House Harkonnen. But the important thing is when we talk about House Harkonnen, it's we're going to be talking a lot about the bloodlines there and how we theorize the way that kind of works. But so it's just important for us to go over like what the different Dragonmarks are, the different types of marks that exist, and then within those marks, the fact that there are a bunch of different bloodlines that belong to different families that kind of theoretically make their own unique powers. So sure, the Davis family might be House Neath that has Mage Armor, and the Sin family might be House Neath that has Shield or Shield of Faith or whatever, right? Does that mean that House Davis family line Davis can't make Shield of Faith? Maybe, maybe not. That's between you, the PC, and the DM, right? But the idea is that there is a precedent that says that while the mark can get these different powers, the bloodline heavily dictates what powers are an option for you to get. So if you're a young member of the House Davis family and you're hoping to one day form a mark, it's very likely you're going to be getting Mage Armor. So don't get your hopes too high. Anyways, I think that's pretty much everything to do with the family lines. Yeah. I think it's super important to go over because
do you know what the chances are of a child manifesting a mark?
Very
I think it's like 50% if the parents are both marked.
Oh, they don't even have that number in there. That's not even like a hard number. I would actually argue that if both the parents have a dragon mark, it's even less than that. I would give you something like 10% chance that you would have that otherwise. So at this point in the video, I more or less ramble on about what I think the rules would be for this, but I actually get corrected by Erin, who would later on send me a message in Skype with this little clippet from the Dragonmarked Eberron book, page 7. It says, though the appearance of marks cannot be consistently predicted, approximately half of the children born to Dragonmark parents eventually develop dragon marks of their own, meaning the number that Erin had just said in the video is way more accurate than what I just started espousing. Common belief holds that parents with powerful marks are more likely to produce gifted children. Likewise, children often develop the same powers as their parents. Within House Simvis, members of blah, 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 blah. Once again, something at the beginning of the video that Erin had referenced that was going on. As you can see, one of the reasons why I do these videos with Erin is because she is incredible in her knowledge about dragon marks and a few other things that exist in Eberron. I love doing these videos with her. They're so much fun, and I'm definitely here to point out I was very wrong. Thank you again, Erin. I humbly say thank you again. Hey, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you really enjoyed the content, I hope you hit that subscribe button, notifications. You know the deal. You've heard it all before. But definitely try to catch us live over on twitch.tv/Daleric so you can catch some of that live content, see some of those live tabletop games in action. It's so much fun to play with my friends. It's so much fun to get chat involved. The ways that you can support and get involved yourself are either by popping into a live show and seeing how things go over there, or even jumping over on to patreon.com/Daleric so you can throw a little something in and throw a little something at the PCs in the game. All right, thank you again. Catch you next time.